been through there. That's all in our minds as families of hostages. That's definitely in the minds of the families who are awaiting family members. But the most important thing is that we start, because we want this war to end. And what I'm afraid of is that this is only a temporary ceasefire, that we'll see only 33 hostages coming and then the war will resume. This is not what we want. We want this ceasefire to start as quickly as possible and then to end this war completely with all 97 hostages coming back home. We had one hostage that was right now rescued from Gaza, the body of a hostage, actually Oron Shaul, that's been there for 10 years. 3 more hostages have been in Gaza for 10 years. We have to get this over with.
Here in Tel Aviv for the Age.
That is Gil Dickman. Carmel, he was talking about Carmel Gat, his cousin who was killed while being held hostage in Gaza. Let's talk to Lise Doucette, our chief international correspondent. Lise, we are now in a position where this ceasefire has taken effect, and now we expect a process to unfold over the rest of today and indeed over the next few weeks and months and probably years.
And I believe must be huge relief now mixed with anger, with anxiety, that after a delay of a few hours, the ceasefire has now begun at 11:15 local time. Long after the 6:30 start, which was said yesterday would be the moment where the guns fall silent, where Palestinians can know that they're not going to be killed in the streets or under attack in their homes. And the families of the Israeli hostages know that 3 of their loved ones will be coming home, and that if this process continues without any hitches, without any backsliding, that even more will come home, more than 30 in this first phase. But this delay has reminded us again of just how much this process will be fraught with risk, fraught with danger, and a real risk that it could all unravel. But right now, the mediators, Qatar and Egypt, the telephone lines were burning this morning as they tried to resolve what was happening with this delay. But for now, it has begun, and the relief must be palpable in the Gaza Strip. My colleague Rushdi Abu Alufrish, I know you're in constant contact with people in Gaza. What are you hearing now?
Well, I was allowed to read this message from my father and other messages from Gaza this morning. Everybody was, very optimistic. They were writing nice messages about one of them saying that nothing in the sky but bird, and he had to delay this message for 3-4 hours. For now, the people are hope that this ceasefire will last. It's Gaza under ceasefire is the word that 2.3 million people have been waiting day after day, night after night, minute after minute, and now they seems to be finally happy with this result. Yes, about 13 people were killed. Some of the people in Gaza were criticizing Hamas for delaying the names, saying that any delay would cost lives in Gaza. For the people, they are hoping that ceasefire will last, and within 1 week, 1.2 million people will be allowed to take this very complicated journey through a security check to move back to their neighborhoods, to their places in the north. Yes, they are happy, but they are also worried, because most of those who are displaced a year or over a year ago, they don't have a place to stay anymore, as 60 to 70% of their homes were destroyed, especially in Jabalia refugee camp. This is the biggest camp in Gaza, where about 250,000 people are there. Israel conducted about 100-day operation, destroyed 90% of the camp, according to the Hamas-run authority in Gaza, which also Hamas, they said that they have deployed thousands of policemen in the street to make sure that the life is back to normal. They said that they will work according to a plan that they are set up with the mediators to restore law and order in Gaza. But Liz, that Hamas has suffered a lot of destruction, not only in terms of military infrastructure, but also in the government level and in the political level in Gaza. So we need to wait and see how they can function to restore law and order. We have seen gangs in the past stealing aid coming into Gaza, and we're supposed to see 600 trucks every day allowed from Egypt into Gaza to those people who are in need, the people who are suffering, and getting less than 20% of what is needed for the last 15 months. Those who are having to live in makeshift tents for a very long time and waiting for a better situation when the aid is going to be surged up into Gaza.
Rishi, thank you very much for sharing with us that very poignant message from your father. It's a message which speaks to the pain and the anxiety, the cautious hope of so many Palestinians. What do you, just give us a sense, you were forced to leave your home in the north of the Gaza Strip. You've seen images that it lies in ruin. So many who, like you, who are watching from afar will also be feeling this torrent of emotions this morning.
Yeah, of course, it is very emotional for me. I was, covered 5 wars before in Gaza. I was always there when the ceasefire is declared, talking to people. And, journalism is all about being able to be in the place, talk to the people in the place. We had to leave, our house over a year ago. We had to leave the place that we belong to and we love, Gaza, after 1 year, and we have been watching day and night what's going on there. Now it's a bit of relief for us, and not only for me, but about 120,000 Palestinians who were allowed out of Gaza since the war. I have been to them. I've been visited Egypt, Qatar, London, Turkey, everywhere, and they are all sharing the same concern about the future of Gaza. Most of them, like the people in Gaza, they lost their homes, they lost their offices, their businesses, and now it's time to think about the future, which seems to be uncertain and unclear, especially with the level of destruction in Gaza, and who's going to be in charge of this place, who's going to put this effort to rebuild 70% of the homes, maybe 80% of the schools, universities, infrastructure, sewage system, electricity system, communication. So it's a lot of work, and people are hoping that some sort of Palestinian internal dispute can be solved, and then they can hope that one day they will be able to return back to their place that they love, Gaza.
Yeah, and as you've already indicated, these first steps towards returning to their own lives, and it will be such a long and difficult, if not dangerous road, but there is the very real risk, and you've been emphasizing this today, that this whole process of return could be marred, could be delayed by chaos, the sheer desperation of people to leave, the criminality because of the desperation of people. Do you see in the details of this agreement the kind of mechanisms to be put in place to try to mitigate this kind of problem?
I think before we came to the end of this first stage, 42 days, because nobody, even Hamas, I had hundreds of calls, and I have met most of the Hamas leaders, from Ismail Haniyeh to his deputy to everybody, and they all concerned about the second stage. They believe that Israel want as much hostages as possible in the first stage, and they want to resume to the fight again. This is a real concern for Hamas, but also a real concern for all of the Gaza, whether they are inside or outside. So it's going to be very difficult 6 weeks to judge. It's very early to judge whether this ceasefire agreement will end the war. So before we have this clear vision about the war would be end, nobody can plan anything. Especially is now the issue of the Rafah crossing. Now the Egyptians are saying that they want to reopen the Rafah crossing. There is a meeting in Cairo that involving the PA, Palestinian Authority, head of the crossings. He was in the meeting. They are talking about a mechanism to reopen the crossing. You know that 90% of the crossing itself is destroyed. So they need a lot of work just to repair Rafah crossing, and then they will start to talk who's going to be in charge of the crossing. Is it the BA or some sort of technocrat? Is it going to see a new government within the BA? Who's going to be in charge of this? How Hamas will react now in trying to impose law and order in Gaza? Would Hamas be accepted anymore to many Gazan after what they some of the people or many people in Gaza equally accused Hamas of this, the aftermath of the 7th of October attack? So a lot of long debate started on the 7th of October, continued throughout the war, and we have seen more of this debate on social media. Those very small number of people who have access to the internet from Gaza, but more widely Palestinians outside Gaza, were all the time discussing and talking about this. And they believe that without having internal Palestinian issue resolved, Gaza will not enjoy any good future.
Rushdie Abu Alouf, as always, thank you very much for joining us to bring us up to date, not just with details of this unfolding moment, the ceasefire finally has begun, but also posing the questions, the very, very almost existential questions about the way forward, as if it is as widely hoped this process continues to unfold. No doubt we'll be speaking to you again. Rushdie will let you go for now. And